Good to be here with you this morning at Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I know my mic's going to come on any moment now. My name's Suzanne, and I have your announcements for the coming week. We have plenty of announcements going on. First up, you can see the Spirit Choir is here to sing for our service. We meet on Monday nights from 7 to 9 p.m. here in this space. You are welcome to join us. If you're interested in singing with the choir, you can talk to me. Tuesday mornings, our minister, Reverend Wayne, offers coffee with the minister over Zoom. That's on Tuesday from 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. The link to the Zoom is in the Monday mailing. Reverend Wayne also offers a Wednesday night meditation over Zoom from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. All are welcome to join. Volunteer opportunities at Neighborhood. We're looking for greeters. Are you available to welcome members and friends on a Sunday morning? If so, please contact Luann. Offertory counters are also needed to count and record donations from the basket in teams of 2 after service. Training is provided. You can see Veronica Taylor for more info if you can help count. The Lifespan Learning Committee, happy to see so many young people in our service today. Welcome, young friends. We need volunteers to help out with our LL program. So if you can talk to Zee after service or email at lifespanlearningnuke@gmail.com for more info about volunteering with the young folks. Also, Zoom chalice lighters are wanted. If you join us via Zoom, you can now be a chalice lighter and help us enter spiritual space from home. You can contact Peter for more info on that. And we're also in need of a Sunday service planning coordinator. That position fills the Sundays with speakers when our minister is away. If you think you might be interested in taking this on, you can also talk to Peter, who is chair of the Sunday Service Weavers. Hear ye, next week is our AGM. It will be beginning at 1:30 p.m., so you have enough time to have lunch in advance. Information will be sent out. The meeting will take place virtually via the Sunday Service Zoom link. For more info, you can talk to our President Allison. Our minister, Rev Wayne, is offering a mindful journey to Tuscany from October 9th to 18th. This will be his last journey with Neighborhood. You can speak to Rev Wayne to learn more about mindful journeys. The DMC Speaker Series, Environmental Justice and Sustaining Activism. Speaker series is happening May 5th at 7 p.m. on Zoom. This will be a dialogue featuring 2 speakers, Sally Ludwig, who supports community capacity with Active Hope, and Megan Bro, an organizer with the youth-led Fridays for Future. To register, the link will be provided soon in our Monday mailing. Clothing Recycle Exchange is happening. It's been a few years. A beloved event in our community on Saturday, May 14th from 3 to 5 here in this space. Please bring in your pre-loved, good condition clothes to give away. And when you come in, you can take home, clothes yourself, a new treasure. All clothes that remain at the end of the event will be donated to New Circles. We're still looking for help setting up and a second driver. If you can help out with this clothing exchange, see our president, Allison. This week's question to the community. Can you share a story about a time when misfortune passed you over, narrowly avoided you? Ponder this topic. We hope you will be willing to share when the time comes. And next Sunday, we are celebrating Earth Day. We have 4 speakers, all members of the Active Hope small group that's been happening since October. And music will be provided by all of us. We'll be doing songs in a drum circle. So if you'd like to bring your favorite percussion instrument for home, you are welcome. We also have plenty of instruments here if you don't have something and we can share with you.
We welcome you to our neighborhood Unitarian Universalist congregation. Happy Easter, and welcome to the choir who returns again. Thank you all for joining us both here in our sanctuary and at your own home on Zoom. My name is Gordon Thorne, and I will be your service weaver this morning. This service is being recorded both for the public on YouTube and on our website. Check it out sometimes. Joys and concerns will be edited out. If you have privacy concerns, you could sit in the last row there, or if you're on Zoom, just turn off your camera so you're not seen and rename yourself. Now, I say all that, but we hope you won't. Part of being in spiritual community is being seen, risking a lack of anonymity to participate with others in building an authentic spiritual community. We hope that is what you will do. Now, we have nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. So now, let us bring our hearts and minds and spirits together as one, as we give greeting and gratitude for being with each other. This is our threshold moment. Let's enter sacred space together. Our service begins now. Since we've been back in the sanctuary doing multi-platform services, I'm just going to take this like this. Since we've been back in the sanctuary doing multi-platform services, we returned to asking a congregant in the room to light the chalice each week. Now, the service weavers thought we would shake things up a bit and honor a congregant on Zoom. So this morning, I'd like to ask Sigrid Newland to light our chalice. Sigrid is in the Poplar Hill First Nations, which is about 120 kilometers northwest of Red Lake. The reservation is one of 49 that are part of the Anishinaabe-Aski Nation. They are part of Treaty 5, which covers part of northwestern Ontario and Manitoba. So, welcome, Sigrid. Please light your chalice for us while we light ours. Suzanne will play while we sing.
Life is a charity, never within.
Our prelude today will be sung by our very own spirit choir. Suzanne, would you like to introduce it?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Gordon. Today we are recognizing both the Christian holiday of Easter and the Jewish holiday of Passover. We'll be singing 2 Easter songs and 2 Passover songs. Opening our service today, we'll sing Mozart's Ave Verum Corpus, which is a Latin Eucharist hymn written in the 14th century. The music comes from 1791, 6 months before Mozart's death. And the translation is in the chat for those on Zoom, but I'll read it to you for those that are here. Hail, true body, born of the Virgin Mary, having truly suffered, sacrificed on the cross for mankind, from whose pierced side water and blood flowed. Be for us a foretaste of heaven in the trials of death.
I start by acknowledging that the Wendat, the Anishinaabeg Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Mississaugas of the New Credit, First Nations, who lived here before me and are living here now, together with the Métis, Inuit, and in honor of our chalice lighter, the Anishinaabe Aski First Nation. I offer my gratitude to our First Nations for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations, and I will work to honor these teachings. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Our minister is the Reverend Wayne Walder. Our musical director is Suzanne Mazars. Zee Getchell, hi Zee, facilitates our Sunday child and caregiver program and will host this morning's Time for All Ages. We also have Mike Kozowski doing the Zoom web hosting duties. We have Reese Rogers at the back is handling sound and the PTZ camera, and we have Jason Laprade overseeing the sound so that, unlike last week, those in the sanctuary and at home can hear. Thank you to all those at home, and I want to just give a shout out. Thanks to all at home for your patience as we grappled with the tech gremlins which seem to inhabit our system. One way that you will be able to hear clearly is with our new assisted listening devices. I'm just going to get one here. It's a simple receiver and headphones with a volume dial, and you all know that I have hearing challenges, and this is a Clarity Lifeline, and they're available from Reese or Jason at the AV desk at the back. And you just pop this on your belt and put these on like this, and you're good to go. By now, you all know Zoom etiquette. If you have a technical question or concern, send a direct chat message to Mike, not to everybody. We have a wiggle room off to the side of our sanctuary, which families with the small children are welcome to use as they feel comfortable. It's not a requirement. We're open to many beliefs and learn from many traditions. We welcome all people to our religious community. If you're visiting us in person for the first time today, we welcome you and encourage you to stay after the service for coffee and fellowship. Our minister will stay in the main sanctuary briefly to answer any questions about who we are and what we do. Our services vary from week to week, so we encourage you to sample several to get a better feel for who we are and what we do. Our mission at Neighborhood is to empower spiritual growth and shared action for the care of our world. As I said, today is Easter Sunday. It celebrates the resurrection, the return from the dead of Jesus in the Christian tradition. In the ancient world, there were many celebrations around this time of year, and this year is a rare conjunction of many of them. The earth-centered traditions celebrate Ostara, the return of spring, and the return to life after winter. And I remember many services that Kendrew led for us. Welcome back, Kendrew, to bring us through the pagan ceremonies. Thank you. Muslims observe the month of Ramadan. Ramadan is a celebration of the story of when God revealed to the Prophet Muhammad the Quran, Islam's holy book. And it is a time of prayer and fasting in preparation for the year ahead. And Jews around the world celebrate Passover. Passover celebrates the story of when God visited a plague on the Egyptian people, but spared or passed over the Israelites. All are stories of renewal. Now, our minister has asked us to consider a time when we were passed over from harm or tragedy. My story comes from when I was traveling in Thailand back in 2014. Michelle and I were returning from a meditation retreat and traveling through Bangkok on our way to Chiang Mai in the north. Sharing taxi through the town on our way to the regional airport, we stopped at an intersection partially blocked by a large demonstration. A large encampment of people were protesting government corruption and had occupied a site for many weeks on a main street around the Victory Monument in the center of the city. We slowed and stared out the window at the protest that seemed just there. It was only a few weeks later when we arrived in Chiang Mai Airport, a few hours later when we arrived in Chiang Mai Airport, that our cab driver asked if we'd heard the news. 2 grenades had exploded amongst the protesters after we'd passed, leaving 28 injured. 1 later died. It was literally minutes after we pulled away. Passed over, and then renewal. That is our theme today. In the words of Anne Dillard, each day is a God and holiness holds forth in time. I worship each God. I praise each day splintered down and wrapped in time like a husk of many colors spreading at dawn fast over the mountain splits. And now is the time to greet your neighbors. So, adopt an attitude of consent and respect physical distances. After you have greeted a few neighbors, you can turn to the camera at the back wall and offer a greeting to those who join us virtually. For those on Zoom, please unmute your devices, switch to gallery view, and offer a greeting to those around you, and then to the people in the sanctuary. I believe Callie will be sounding a chime to end our Greet Your Neighbor time. So please now take a moment to greet the neighbors around you.
Good job, choir.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Hi,
Michelle. Hi, Dolly.
Yes, hi, Dolly. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Susie.
Hi, everybody. Hi.
Hi, Pochi.
Hello.
Hi.
Neighborhood Unitarian.
Hi,
Ray.
Rain.
Morning, Yvette.
Hi, Dolly. Hi,
Hi,
Michelle.
Susan.
Hi, Deb.
Hi, Susan. Hi,
Hello. Hope you're
Michelle.
feeling
Hi, David.
good.
Happy
Wayne.
Easter.
Okay.
Hi,
Happy
Mike.
Easter.
Pat,
Yeah.
Julianne, Jennifer,
John.
John,
Hello,
Lauren. Hi,
everybody.
Lauren.
and
Hi,
Reese
Patricia.
is
Hi.
Reese.
Hey,
Yeah.
Deb.
Hi, everybody. Patricia.
Hi.
Oh, sorry.
Here we
Hi,
go.
people in the sanctuary.
It is unmuted.
Now, I invite you to join me in reading our opening words, which will appear on the screen. Let us cast the circle of a sacred space here. Let us cast the circle of a cherished space here. A space of safety, a place of forgiveness, a place of love. If we want the world to change, we must craft in our space and in ourselves the seeds that grow a different kind of life. A life of graciousness, of creative intelligence, a place of life and spirit for ourselves and our families. Suzanne, do we have a new song?
Yes. Even if our mouths could fill with songs as water fills the sea, we could never sufficiently express our thanks. Our opening song, Ilu Finu, that's the translation I just read to you, comes from a traditional Hebrew prayer. And the version we're going to sing today was written by Rabbi Miriam Margles, who is the leader of our sibling congregation, the Danforth Jewish Circle. They sing this often in Sabbath worship. Okay, so one more thing. I'm going to ask for the congregation to join me in the chant part of this song while the choir will sing the lead. So I'm going to teach that to you. We're just singing Ilu Lulu, Ilu Lulu, Ilu Lulu. All right, let's get the guitar. discussion happening today. And here's the part I'd like the congregation to sing. And you can sing it in your high register or your low register, depending where it fits in your voice. I'll sing it in the low register first. Sounds like this. Elu-lu-lu, 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 elu-lu, or for high, elu-lu-lu, 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 elu-lu-lu. Gotcha? Elu-lu-lu, 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 elu. Or the high version? Elu-lu-lu, 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 elu-lu-lu. Even if our mouths could fill with songs, as water fills the sea, we could never sufficiently express our thanks.
Well, thanks for that, Suzanne.
Mike's not on there.
Okay, I'm just going to have to be real loud. I'm going to invite all of the young and young heart to come down and have a seat on the carpet. Thank you. Because it's time for all ages. So, like Gordon said, today is a holiday. And also, like Gordon said, lots of different people have lots of different names for the day and celebrate this time of year in lots of different ways. So today we're talking about the Jewish holiday Passover. And Passover can be kind of hard to talk about because it talks about death, and that can be a hard thing to think about and to talk about. Now, I won't go through the whole story, but the basics behind the holiday are that a long time ago, the Jewish people had a special symbol, and that symbol protected them from a terrible plague. And because of that protection, death passed over the Jewish people, and that's where they got the name for the holiday. The story I'm going to tell you today is of my own experience with death passing over. So I was 15. It was the end of June, early July. I'd just gotten out of school for the summer, and I was at the mall with some friends. We were just hanging out, going to different stores, seeing what they had, being silly, teenager stuff. The last thing I really remember was that somebody suggesting that we have a contest to see who could hold their breath the longest. Like I said, we were being silly. But that's the last thing that I remember before darkness. Now, I've been told a lot about what happened that day over the next several hours, but I don't remember anything but the darkness. I've been told I woke up several times, even talked to some doctors and some paramedics, but no matter how hard I try, I can't remember it. The next thing I remember is waking up the next day and seeing a nurse looking down at me. The nurse told me that I'd had a fall and had to have surgery on my head. She told me that my parents were in the next room waiting to see me. She told me that I'd almost died. Over the next couple days, I learned more about what happened in that time that I still can't remember, while I healed up, and I was able to leave the hospital a couple days later. I was very lucky when death passed over me. But that's my story of my own personal Passover. Now, I may not be Jewish myself, but I have a real respect for this holiday because I know what it feels like when death passes over you, and it's something worth celebrating. So how about we go into our room and have our program now, eh?
Call Passover a myth, if you will, but the Greek statesman Solon thought that myth is not something which never happened, but something that happens over and over and over again to all of us. And you can see it, the idea of moving from slavery to freedom, all cultures, all time. The idea of moving from one oppressed area, condition, culture, to creativity, happening all the time. The idea of traveling to find your place. The idea of being taught a very deadly lesson are all part of the Passover myth. And we have all lived these things again and again and again. That old story of Passover goes back to the family or tribe of Jacob, and they fled their home in Canaan in the face of a terrible famine. They made their way to Egypt, where they were welcomed. They actually helped Egypt not starve and became a populous people. But when the new king arose in Egypt, he feared the growing Israelites, that they would take power, and he enslaved them, a sentence that continued for 210 years. Then the God of Israel appeared to Moses in a burning bush. You've probably heard that. I am that I am. Sometimes translated, I will be as you will be. And he instructed him to go to Egypt and free the slaves. The story of Passover relates the struggle between God, who demands freedom for the Israelites, and Pharaoh, who symbolizes the hard-hearted forces of ego and tyranny and enslavement. And God finally breaks Pharaoh's spirit by inflicting Egypt with 10 plagues. And during the final plague, the Israelites have their firstborn son killed. The Egyptians have their firstborn son killed. Now, this was only a generation before what had happened to the Israelites. Pharaoh had said that their firstborn children would be killed. This is how the festival got its name, Passover. Because Pharaoh's son was killed, he told the Israelites to leave. Moses led the people of Israel out of Egypt toward the waters of the Red Sea that were parted. And you can see in that picture them hoping that they will put a little symbol above their door, the blood of a newly killed, sacrificed lamb, and the angel would pass over them. Since they escaped Egypt in a hurry, they did not have time for the bread to leaven and rise, giving Passover its most famous symbol, the matzah, which is Hebrew for unleavened bread. You know, in this very old and powerful story about slavery and freedom and misfortunes, even joys of a human life, I wanted to focus on that idea, and I've asked everybody to figure out what it would be to pass over. What kind of danger passed over you, just like the angel passed over the Israelites? It's kind of like a close call. Can you imagine being on either side of that group of people, the Israelites or the Egyptians? One group having had their children killed, another about having their children killed? Can you imagine that nobody was feeling like it was great? Nobody was feeling like it was right. We've all been hurt, and we've all grieved. In some ways, it joins us. You know, when I was driving home a long time ago, my son Lee was only 3, and it was an early winter morning. I had many things to do that day, and I had not slept well the night before. Lee was up a lot. I felt like I had been sleep deprived. I bet some of you who have children know that feeling. I put Lee in the car seat as it snowed lightly. It was early winter, beautiful, but I was in too much of a hurry to appreciate it. As I drove over the hill on Jones, I think there was a little downhill grade there, and the snow was far more slippery than I imagined, and the car started fishtailing around, and I overcorrected it, causing the car to spin. In the oncoming lane, there was this tractor-trailer driving up the hill, and in those slow moments before tragedy, I expected we were going to hit that truck head-on. The truck saw me spinning and put its brakes on, and it began to fishtail. And in the moments that followed, I imagined dying, unnecessarily, because I had been too busy to slow down. But finally, the car hit a piece of dry road. The brakes caught, slowed me down. My car began to straighten as the semi-tractor slid across the road. I braced for impact, and my car went right under the semi between the front and the rear wheels. The side of the truck was almost touching the windshield. It looked a little bit like that. As the driver got out of the cab, he looked at me with these wide eyes. He smiled and made a praying motion with his hands, and so did I. He got into his cab and drove away. Passover. Passover. The idea of Passover is a mythic idea. It's not something that never happened, but something that happens all the time. Do you have a close call you could tell us?
In October, the kids and I were in a car accident, and the car was going to hit us straight on, but I managed to pull it a bit. But yeah, we were all fine. We had stripes and bruises and bumps, but nobody was really hurt, and neither were the other people. But both cars were completely total.
Both totaled.
Yeah.
Kurt?
Back in, okay, just say when. Okay, okay. Back in 2004, after I went to known as a legal protest, apparently I had a seizure. Woke up in the hospital 2 days later. Yeah, I mean, if I'd been anywhere else in a non-public space where there was no one to help me, I could have died. And so thank you, just public spaces.
Thank you, yeah.
When I had my ectopic, I went for
a routine ultrasound to see how far along I was, which I insisted on. The doctor didn't want to give me. And because I insisted on that ultrasound and went when I did, they found it before it burst. And if an ectopic bursts, it can kill you. And I was 25. And so a few days later, realizing that I could have died, and I was very lucky that everything went as, considering the situation, as smoothly as possible. It changed the entire course of my life.
We've got time for one or two more. Times when there was such a close call.
Yeah, mine also involved a car. I was driving up Highway 7 towards Ottawa. I was near Perth, Ontario, and everything was hunky-dory. I was feeling good, and next thing I know, I woke up. I came to consciousness, and I was sitting in my car that was full of smoke. The airbags had deployed. The engine was running, and nothing was working. And I turned and I realized I was facing on the wrong way, on the wrong side of the road, and turned around and saw a car behind me, went up the road, and I was safe, and I had sideswiped their vehicle, but all 5 of them had also avoided any injury, so I was just very grateful for that stroke of luck.
How many people do you think here have had a close call with terrible injury or death? How many of you? Just if you'd raise your hand. Passover. You know, I wanted us to realize how fragile our lives are, how terribly temporary they are. And when we come back, you know, and the second part of the message, I was going to ask you if you would tell us a story when misfortune did touch you.
This is a unique time in our service when we invite you to share a joy or concern for a concern in your life. For those in person, please form lines on either side of the sanctuary. And for those on Zoom, we'll call on you after the people in the sanctuary have had their turn. For those on Zoom, open your reactions tab at the bottom of the main window, raise a virtual hand. If you're here on a phone without a screen, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. To speak, you have to unmute your device, and to be seen, you need to have your camera on. Once you've spoken, please remute your device. This is a time for going inside and opening your heart. No ads, no jokes, no politics. Go to your heart and help us all open our hearts with the depths that you dare to open yours. This cherished time brings our community closer. We start by lighting a candle for all the volunteer efforts, seen and unseen, that make this community work. And I light this candle for all the people in countries facing war and aggressors. And for all those that are in harm's way, may you be passed over. Sorry, Suzanne, would you like to introduce our new video?
Sure, and the Spirit Choir recorded this during the pandemic, actually for last year's Easter service. Really appreciate the text of this hymn number 266, Now the Green Blade Riseth, as it brings the Christian story of the resurrection and the spring story of the renewal of life into harmony. It's Please join the Spirit Choir in singing.
Now the green blade riseth from the very clay. We take that darker, many days has lain. Love lives again, that with the dead has been. Love is come again, like wheat that springeth green. In the grave they laid him, loved by hatred slain, thinking that never he would wake again. Laid in the earth, like grain that sleeps unseen. Love is come again, like wheat that springeth green. When our hearts are wintry, grieving or in pain, love's touch can call us back to life again. Fields of our hearts that dead and bare have been, love is come again, like wheat that springeth green. Love is come again, like wheat that springeth green.
This is a time of meditation and maybe a little prayer. I don't know, find a way that you can just be balanced, just sit and heal. Take a breath, a sigh. Feel your feet on the floor, your hands maybe on your lap. Let all the things around you, strangers and friends, hardly will you have this experience again in a week. Now see if you can allow your body to pray. No words. It might be a feeling of grieving or longing. It might be a fear of gratitude. Or a feeling of forgiveness. There's this way of using emotion to deepen meditation. Just enough. How is your body praying? body prayers are often healing, deeply healing. So come back slowly. There's also a loving in a prayer, a kind of loving of life as we try to communicate with it. And then it's over. I don't know about you, but sometimes misfortune's not passed me by. There was this time when Lee was just a little bit older, and we had a bunch of people, and they were all together, and we were driving downtown. We were on Dundas Street, and we had this car, this old Renault, and it was not a really great car. And the heat lamp went on, and it had gone on so many times before. So I got out of the car, and I opened the hood, and flames shot out, and they caught my coat on fire, and it burned my hair, burned my arms. Kids were terrorized from it. Cars stopped on Dundas, a busy Saturday night. The fire department came, they put the car out. We didn't have much money. There was no way to get around any longer with the car not being there. You can see that as being passed over or touched by misfortune. It was for us touched by misfortune. How about you? When have you been touched by misfortune? That one's a little harder to talk about.
February 24th, 2014, my son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. It changed his life, and I consider it a misfortune.
June 2000, my son was hit by a car who was speeding and sustained some serious, apparently I wasn't there, so apparently he flew up in the air 20 feet and thank God had no head injuries, but had to have his femurs put together. And what I took away from that is I was so thankful that he was able to heal, because all the other kids who had, even their accidents were less, were starting their lives over again, and sick kids.
Well, what passed me over was also the start of misfortune. So that was November 23rd, 2016, March 16th, 2017, March 16th, 2018, and October 6th, 2018 were 4 pregnancy losses in a row in under 2 years.
This is sacred ground when we tell the stories about when misfortune touched us. Any others? Christina?
In the late 90s, my family doctor discovered a lump in my thyroid, and I don't know if any of you know, I was diagnosed when I was a child with leukemia, and it just brought back a lot of memories from my childhood, and thankfully the tumor was benign, but so in that way it passed me over, but it still brought back all the memories I had from my childhood, being in the hospital.
Life is bigger than we think sometimes, bigger than we can understand or imagine. Sometimes misfortune passes over us. It's not always fair or just that it does so. At other times, misfortune touches us. It's also not fair or just. When misfortune touches us or it misses us, we are shaken out of our normal habits. When misfortune touches us or misses us, there's a moment that we realize life's not forever, and maybe we've got to live it a little differently. Because life is lovely and capricious, filled with beauty and laced with tragedy. Joy and woe are woven fine, a clothing for the soul divine. Under every grief and pine runs a joy with silken twine. It's right that it be so. We were made for joy and woe. Blake reminds us. And when we've been touched or passed over by that angel, we have to start again. We have to start again like every tree, like every bush, like every flower. After the cold winter, after the forced isolation, after personal and cultural struggles, we need to begin again. We need to begin again. And beginning again is not some fanciful idea, some new age concept, not rose-colored glasses. It's hard work to begin again. It's a central aspect of our lives. And you can see it outside right now. It's happening in the ground that we walk on the riverbanks. It's happening with all the animals. Life after the cold and barren winter is beginning again, and we're invited. No matter how many times we've turned away, been touched, we're invited to begin again. After Passover is Easter. And I respectfully ask all of us, including myself, that we begin again. Begin again in the community. Begin again in your families. Begin again at work or at rest. Begin again in your home. After Passover, no matter which way the angel goes, there's Easter. Thank you for listening.
Now is the time for offertory. Sharing of ourselves is part of every faith. Volunteer efforts are essential, but salaries are paid and programs created by your contributions. Baskets will be passed for all those who choose to make contributions while our choir sings. If you're online, please use the link on the screen which leads you to our donation page. In all ways, I ask you to be generous. Greeters, would you like to accept the baskets?
If you have found love and acceptance here, if you have found home here, if you have known kindred spirits here, let this offering be a token of gratitude for our common life as we build the common good.
For our closing song today, we're again singing something the cantor from the Jewish circle, Lisa Kent, taught me that they sing every year at Passover. This is about the prophet Elijah. And again, I'd like the congregation to be the chant for this tune, and I'm going to teach it to you. Why don't we rise in spirit and energy, everyone? As you're able. Your words are just tumba tumba. It doesn't mean anything, it's just to provide the bass part. It sounds like this. Tumba ta tumba, tumba ta tumba, tumba 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 tumba ta tumba. And we're just gonna keep that going the whole song, everyone. Sounding great. Maybe we can get the young people to join us on those tumbas too. Tumba, ta tumba, 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 ta tumba, tumba, ta tumba, 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 ta tumba, tumba, ta tumba, 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 ta tumba, tumba, tumba. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of the Spirit Choir today.
Now I would like to invite Sigrid to return and extinguish her chalice as we extinguish ours.
Chalice has been darkened.
you, Sigrid.
I leave you with this blessing, that you be the angels, and you touch people. And when you touch them with your heart and with your goodness, with your wisdom and your care, your gratitude. And you bless them. Because heaven knows there's enough of that other touching going on. For those of you who do not wish to join a breakout room, thank you very much for joining us. Everyone who remains here in our virtual space will be asked to join a breakout room. And here, there are 3 rooms here that you can certainly go into if you wanted to have a quiet conversation, including staying in this room. And if you stay in this room, this is the room where we're not going to have coffee or anything, and we can just have quiet conversations. I'll be in here to answer any questions. There's places by both bookcases that you can sit quietly in. And in that room, there'll be coffee, I think. Is that right, Linda? Yes. Got a big thumbs up there. So if you'd like to have a conversation about telling a story about when the angel passed over or touched you, maybe in those rooms or in the breakout rooms, you can do that. I wonder if we could all maybe stand up for a moment and turn to our neighbor in a way that allows you to make eye contact and say, Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste.
Saluting the spirit within each of us.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Wish I was there with you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Our service is over. Go in peace, everyone. Have some coffee, have some conversation.